Welcome to the world of Ambergris Caye. Near the Palapa Bar, there is Reef Adventures, one of our favorite dive tour companies. They'll take you all up and down the area, help you find sea turtles like this young one right here, who our guide, Edwin, was able to locate and bring us in for a wonderful interaction. That's Edwin over there. They're so beautiful and graceful as they swim. When I'm filming, I don't always stay vertical because I prefer to just move through the water. Now Edwin found something called an arrowhead crab, which looks like a spider, but it's really a crab. And that spike in the middle pointing up is actually the crab's eye stalks, or something to that effect. This is one of the schooling fish groups that we ran into. A lot of brain coral. It's like moose antler coral and sea fans. And here Edwin is trying to get his buddy, the octopus, to take some fish so that he's willing to let us see him, as they're very shy and especially hide during the day. But this big snapper over here is insisting the food should be going to him, not to the octopus. This is the other side of that little crevice he hangs out in. Edwin moved one of the rocks so you could, if you look closely, see the octopus eye on the right edge of that opening and his air intake, or rather water intake, that he breathes through. And he wrapped it all up in his tentacles and is looking back out at Edwin. That fish just can't figure out why an octopus should be given more fish to eat than him. Apologies for the bouncing camera, but the current was very strong that day, making it difficult to stay put in one place without trading water the whole time. We're now moving to Shark Ray Alley, a location inundated with nurse sharks, amberjacks, and stingrays, where the local fishermen tended to clean their fish before they went back into shore, and the nurse sharks have come to see the humans as kind of the way a bunch of cats would see humans. You know, those silly servants that are supposed to be bringing the dinner and delivering it on time? Nurse sharks do not typically attack anything that's alive and healthy as their scavengers, but chopped up fish they're perfectly fine with. Humans, they generally would not bite unless you grab them or you put your hand in between them and the dinner. Rather like your pet dog might bite you if he's really hungry and you stick your hand right in between him and his food. The stingrays here tend to be the same, as they've grown very accustomed to humans. They're not expecting to be harmed by humans, but it would be dangerous to grab any of these creatures. And you're generally told to stay 10 feet back, though we've been around this particular feeding demonstration so many times that we sometimes get a little bit closer. However, the sharks and stingrays sometimes don't follow those rules and will come right up underneath you, especially if the food is running out, and sort of bump you and nudge you, trying to see if you have more food in your pocket or something. Same with the stingrays, who sometimes come in large groups of 4 or 5. I've had them come right up underneath me and bump into my legs like, hey, where's the dinner? Where's the beef? Aren't you bringing more? Welcome to Caye Caulker at the Split. At the Lazy Lizard Lounge. With good food, good music, good vibes, good drinks. So, we're back in the ocean again. Those are brain coral because they look like a brain. There's some beautiful blue fish that I think are called blue tangs, but I can't remember exactly. Probably the fish that the dory was modeled after. These little yellow fish with all the black stripes are called Sergeant Major fish. The big fish with the kind of lumpy forehead, I can't recall the name of at the moment. And now it's time to feed the tarpon. Giant, majestic fish, almost as large as I am, will come up and take the food from your hand, halfway swallowing your hand in order to make sure it gets in their mouth. And here is the ultimate goal of this particular trip with a guide, was to find the mystical, nearly non-existent manatees who have become so endangered that it is very rare indeed to find them out wild in the sea. This is a juvenile, like an adolescent, that was taking a nap when we came up on him. And while we stayed back politely, trying not to frighten the creature, he noticed us, woke up, and started moving, though he's moving very slowly because he's just woke up. But he's curious. They don't eat fish, so there's not a lot we can offer them other than just hang out with them for a while. And he's turning around to come up and take a good look at the silly humans. Sorry for the loud noise in the background, but we live near an airport where people take small prop planes to get in and out of the island, which is 40 miles away from the shore. At least the only large city on the shore. This young manatee is very brave and curious and comes up very close to check us out. You're not allowed to touch them, at least not on purpose. If they come up underneath you and bump into you, that's a little hard to avoid, but you're expected to stay a respectful distance back all the time, as these are one of the most protected species in all the region of Belize. He also has a very graceful swimming style, but he's in no hurry, checking me out in detail, now going out to check out Edwin. They eat seagrass, so offering them a treat really just isn't an option. except maybe a handful of the grass you see growing on the bottom of the seafloor, and that's hardly worth getting closer than the park rangers would allow over. This was definitely what made the trip a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to meet with such a beautiful creature that is so rare in our world these days. They're sometimes called sea cows because they're gentle and spend most of their time eating grass and swimming around, just taking it easy. Like the Caye Caulker motto, go slow. Being a mammal, of course, manatees have to come up for air periodically, but because they're so relaxed and laid back, they use their air very slowly and can hold their breath for long periods of time. And as I mentioned before, he was actually asleep on the ocean floor when we found him. Apparently, they need very little air when they're sleeping. I was surprised to see that manatees sometimes just play in the water the way I might, spinning around as you go up and down, looking at things from all directions. But he is a juvenile, so he's not all business like the adults. I've been a diver since I was a teen, and I've loved being in the water since I was very, very young. We actually moved out to Ambergris Caye, San Pedro town, specifically to be near this coral reef, the largest, the most majestic coral reef on this side of the planet, so that we could spend more time doing things like this. The trips that go up to places where there are seahorses and manatee up around Caye Caulker are a little more expensive, but worth the money. The cost is really because they need to give you a boat ride to get up there first, and then you're hiring an experienced guide that knows where these very elusive creatures hang out. But there are half-day tours much closer to the Ambergris Caye that are also worth going, such as Mexico Rocks or Hole Chan, which we also did today, and some of the footage might be from there. Or even Tuffy, which is more of a fish nursery, which had beautiful fish and coral, but tends to be much younger fish. I welcome you to come and check out our backyard out here sometime. You won't regret it. I introduced my wife to the glories of snorkeling very early in our 30-year-long marriage, and she enjoys it as much as I do.